welcome to my channel's first video. I have always enjoyed doing various projects in my spare time. After watching other creators on YouTube, I thought that I would try my hand at documenting some of these projects. Perhaps someone may find my projects interesting or even entertaining, as I am a complete amateur and often learn as I go. I'm sure that there will be better ways to perform the tasks that I show, but this is what works for me. This is a Nichols milling machine. I got this at auction for a couple $100. It's in relatively good condition. One of the big issues is somebody had injected grease in all the lube fittings instead of whey oil. I took it apart, cleaned all the grease out, stoned the surfaces. I did have to adjust the play and the gib on one of the slides until it was an acceptable play value. None of my other machines take machine oil through Zerk type fittings, so I had to come up with a way to inject this oil into these fittings. I ended up buying the cheapest hand-powered grease pump I could find off Amazon, taking out the plunger, welding the cap up, and it works relatively good with Vectra 4 oil. So this is where the project part comes in. Originally, these machines were sold with a geared motor and a pulley reduction system to run the spindle. Sometime in the early 50s, which is where I'm assuming this machine is dated from, they switched to a gear reduction system where you would put the pulley on the lower right hand shaft for direct spindle drive or on the upper right hand shaft for a gear down drive. As you can see, there's a large gear missing from this machine. In direct drive, that only allows a spindle speed range from 2,000 to about 4,300 RPM, which is good for carbide, but not so much for high-speed steel. As this is a home hobby shop, that kind of limits the options there. So this gives us a few options. Either I can just keep the machine as it is. One option would be to find a parts machine. There's also a company which sells spare parts for this, but they're pretty proud of their spare parts. I contacted them, and to get the missing gear and bearing and a couple other parts, it was over $5,000, which is obviously not practical. Another option is we could put a variable frequency drive on here, allow almost infinite control over the spindle speed. Issue is with that, even if we go down to 50% spindle speed, which gives about 1,000 RPM, which is still kind of high, I would have to start looking at adding additional cooling to the motor to get below that. Another option is to make a gear for this. I've never made a gear, especially one, certainly not one of this size. I don't have heat treating facilities for it, but that's an option. It could be an adventure. I do have a Chinese knockoff of a Brown & Sharp #1 dividing head, which I could use for that. This is a parts diagram of the parts in question. You can see there is an internal spline in the gear, which is used for engaging and disengaging this gear. Sometime in the future, in newer machines than this one, this design was changed where this spline was integrated into a hub. So as we see, there's some decisions to be made on this machine and what its future will be. Depending on this decision, we'll determine the future videos made on this machine, which will hopefully be longer than this one. This is the lifting mechanism for the spindle. In addition to the knee mechanism, this is another option for setting height. This is the table cross feed, which can be run with this handle, or we can put a smaller crank on it.